Captain Dixon with the Madison County Sheriff's Department, also the Deputy Commander with the Major Case Squad on this incident. The Sheriff's Department requested a Major Case Squad after a shooting that occurred in the 100 block of South Oak Street last Thursday at around 11:09 p.m. The Sheriff's Department received several 911 calls related to a shooting at that address. Sheriff's deputies responded to the scene, located occupants of the home who had indicated that the individuals had made their way into the home armed with firearms and had shot one of the other occupants of the residence. The sheriff's deputies located the individual that had been shot inside the home. Emergency services were contacted and responded to the scene. The subject was in critical condition when they arrived, and they transported him immediately to a St. Louis area hospital where he underwent emergency surgery. Unfortunately, Damian Huber, age 24 of the Brighton area, passed away as a result of those shots and those gunshot wounds. Investigators spoke with the occupants of the home and immediately called the Major Case Squad to assist with the investigation. 23 investigators with the Major Case Squad responded to aid in the investigation. There were more than 50 leads in the investigation. There was little known on the suspects at the time of the initial reported home invasion, outside of a first name of one individual who was known to the resident of the home. Investigators with Major Case Squad resiliently made inquiries through social media and other avenues, and ultimately identified the suspect's full identity. Information was obtained as to his whereabouts. Investigators diligently worked to locate that suspect, who was identified as Brad Payne. He was taken into custody in association with home invasion, as was his cousin Kevin Payne. We worked with the Madison County State's Attorney's Office early in the investigation and obtained warrants for both of those individuals for homicide as it relates to the home invasion. There are other persons of interest that are involved in this that we are looking for, but I wouldn't be able to disclose information as to their identities or their involvement as to interfere with the investigation. Clearly, this is a horrific event. There was...
Can you show me?
Sorry about that.
Clearly, this is a shocking and horrific event for which his family is going through now to bury this 24-year-old man. There's absolutely no justification for his death. It's a tragic event, and we're working diligently with our prosecutor's office to hold these individuals accountable. My feelings are that we will ultimately obtain information that will resolve in the arrest of other individuals that may be associated with this planned home invasion. I wouldn't be able to go into the motive of the home invasion outside of it was a robbery. Items were taken. I wouldn't be able to go into full details as to what those items were. There's a number of investigators still out actively working this case right now, looking for suspects. We're coordinating efforts also with the U.S. Marshal Services on those efforts. I'm going to turn it over to Tom Gibbons. Anybody got any questions further on the incident? I wouldn't be able to get a lot of details, like I said, because it's early on, and I wouldn't want to impede the prosecution. But if you have any specific questions, I may be able to answer.
Did the victims know the suspects?
Pardon me?
Did the victims know the suspects?
The victim in this case that died in this case, he was a guest in that home, and he did not know the suspects. One of the occupants of the home was familiar with one of the suspects, and that's what led us to identifying the individuals that were charged in this case with homicide.
Captain, were the two arrests? Where were the two arrests today of the Payne, the cousin, I guess, and the other gentleman? Where were they made, and how were they made, and was there any resistance?
No, there was no resistance in that case. Ultimately, what our officers determined was an address for Brad Payne. They responded to that area, made contact with family members, learned where he worked, and when they made contact with him at his place of business, they located his cousin Kevin, who was also identified as a suspect in the case as our investigation proceeded. They were both taken into custody without incident.
Can you talk about the charges on either suspect?
Both suspects are charged with 3 counts of homicide, home invasion, and armed robbery. Brad Payne is charged with an additional count of a felony offense related to unlawful use of weapons by felon.
Why 3 counts of homicide for each of them?
I will let Tom discuss that first.
With the people of interest, are any other murder charges expected, or are these the?
I wouldn't be able to go into that, the details of their involvement. We just know that there are other individuals that are needed for questioning as it relates to what happened, how it was planned, and what ultimately took place. We will present the facts of that case later to the prosecutor's office and determine what other charges potentially are out there and available.
And why would they shoot the person in the house that they don't know?
Well, I think things happen during these home invasions that people don't foresee necessarily. I don't know necessarily the full plan that was made before they went in. Obviously, I don't know the mindset of individuals that are willing to go into somebody's home heavily armed with firearms to commit a theft. Those individuals typically are individuals for whom I believe represent the greatest threat to our society. I don't necessarily think they're necessarily thinking coherently when they go in these locations to do that kind of thing, because the average person would not do that. There's something wrong with you when you think that it's okay to take armed men into somebody's home and steal items from them. And clearly, if you don't believe that somehow somebody could get shot in that situation, you're not in your right mind.
Captain, when you say you can't talk about what led to the shooting inside the home, is that right?
No, I wouldn't be able to provide any information as to what actually ultimately resulted in the shooting. We're still actively investigating that to determine all those facts as to how the individual was shot and at what point he was shot. I can tell you this, that the individuals within the home, there's no evidence to suggest they were armed or offered resistance.
Can you recover a weapon?
I
Or
wouldn't
weapons?
be able to go into that evidence at this point in time. I would say that we've executed multiple search warrants and had a very successful investigation that I feel is developing a very strong case against the suspect.
Captain, you say that the investigations continue and you're looking for possibly other suspects. Can you talk about how many suspects?
I wouldn't be able to go into that at this point in time. There are additional individuals that I would consider persons of interest that we're looking at to determine what their involvement is and to determine if they will be charged.
Is it accurate to say there are more than 2 suspects?
No, I wouldn't go into that. I wouldn't be able to
Two.
give those details, and I don't want to give that information at this point in time.
Are you asking
There were multiple subjects that were involved in the home invasion.
Are you asking for the public's help? And
Not at this point in time. No, not at this point in time with those other individuals at this point in time.
Now, you talked about multiple subjects or suspects. Were they all at the scene, or are you looking at people who?
What I would say is there were multiple suspects at the scene. Additional suspects besides the 2 that have been charged were at the scene, and we're looking for those individuals and anyone else who had any involvement in planning this home invasion robbery. Good. I'll introduce Mr. Tom Gibbons, our state's attorney. I didn't introduce my boss, Sheriff Lakin, obviously is here. Let me get out of the way for Tom.
Thank you, Captain Dixon. Sheriff Lakin. Today we are pleased and fortunate to be able to announce first-degree murder charges against 2 individuals, Kevin Payne Jr. and Bradley Payne, both of Cahokia. These 2 individuals are charged with first-degree murder under 3 alternative counts for a single homicide, which allows us the greatest flexibility during trial for proving up a charge of first-degree murder. Each of the 3 theories allows us the same sentencing range and option, which in this case is from 45 to 85 years on the first-degree murder. In addition to those, as Captain Dixon told you, the 2 are both also charged with armed robbery, a Class X felony punishable by 6 to 30 years in the Department of Corrections. Home invasion, also 6 to 30 years in the Department of Corrections. And in addition to that, Bradley Payne is also charged with unlawful possession of a weapon by a felon, which is a Class 2 felony, punishable by 3 to 7 years in the Department of Corrections. What that indicates to you, as you can tell, that Mr. Payne does have a prior felony criminal history. These charges are the result of an extraordinary effort by the women and men of our local major case squad. And once again, they have proven their tremendous worth to our community. We're grateful to them for the long nights, long hours, without sleep, without food and rest, that they put in to make sure that they get the suspects, that they solve these crimes, and make sure that dangerous individuals who are willing to do these terrible acts be brought to justice. And the charges we have today and the activities that we foresee in the near future are solely as a result of their tremendous work. So I'm grateful to them, and our entire community owes a debt of gratitude to the men and women of law enforcement who have dedicated their time over the last week since this incident occurred to making sure that we get people behind bars and we're able to bring them to justice. County Sheriff Lakin, you may have some words, Sheriff.
Hi, Madison County Sheriff John Lakin. I'd like to echo what State Attorney Tom Gibbons said. I want to thank the men and women of the Major Case Squad that they've worked diligently in this case. I know, especially the first few days, countless numbers of hours. You know, these people, they're away from their families, they're away from activities that they're normally involved in. We are very, very fortunate that we have an organization like the Major Case Squad in our area to assist us in these investigations. The countless numbers of hours and the numbers, what they do is just incredible. And it's a great organization. And, you know, I think the last time that we were in this room and we were talking about homicide in Madison County, we may have indicated that if you come to Madison County and you create or commit these type of activities, there's a very, very, very good likelihood that you're going to be discovered, you're going to be arrested, you're going to be charged. And I want to thank Captain Dixon from the Sheriff's Office for all the hard work. You know, you hear that a lot coming from people in the positions, sheriffs and chiefs, but these cases are not easy, and the leads don't develop all the time, and I think it goes to the credibility that these guys bring to an investigation. Again, I just want to thank them. Thank you.
Captain, can I just follow up on something you said earlier about social media? Did that play a factor in, how much of a factor did that play in finding these suspects? And how has that changed police work now in investigations?
You know, I wouldn't want to give too many facts out, information out that would deter us from solving cases in the future, but social media has began to play a big part in a lot of our criminal investigations as it relates to identifying suspects and associates. And I would say that in this investigation, social media did assist us in identifying individuals that we have interest in talking to, or the associates of people that were involved in this case. It was beneficial, I would say that. That's as far as I would go with it, but it does aid us as much as people like to use it. It does aid police investigators with investigations such as this to develop associates of people that are involved in our cases.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.